What's up, guys? I'm back with another movie review. Today I'm here to talk to you about Baise Moi, which translates to Rape Me, which is the title that it's known as in some other territories. This movie is about two women, Nadine and Manu. Nadine is a prostitute who is kind of burnt out on her profession. She's kind of burnt out on sex. She's having to go to more and more extremes to be able to find things that turn her on and get her to enjoy sex. While as Manu is a younger woman. She's having issues because she's tired of getting pushed around by men and kind of used and abused. She's been raped several times to the point to where it really doesn't even mean anything to her anymore. It doesn't really even bother her anymore to be raped. They both end up kind of reaching breaking points and having kind of a violent outburst, after which they end up meeting up together and realizing after at first they have some conflict, but then they realize hey, we're both in situations where we've crossed this line, and they have a lot in common, and they decide to join up, and they go on kind of a violent and sex fueled spree that's very dark, very hopeless and desperate. It's a really dark movie. This movie, I will say right off the bat, it does involve actual non-simulated sex, including actual real hardcore sex during rape scenes, which is very disturbing, very violent, very aggressive. Definitely not going to be for anybody who is offended by graphic sexual content. It also has quite a bit of blood and violence in it as well. Like I said, it's a really dark movie. But it's really interesting too, because it has these two people that have been just pushed to the brink, and finally they just snap and go on this wild spree of just kind of impulsive, in the moment decision making that leads to just all this violence and sex and just craziness. It's gonna offend 99.9% of people. Even I think the people who appreciate it for what it is are probably going to be offended by it. I know that some people feel that because the characters are so unrepentant about about the things that they do, that the movie kind of loses some of its social merit. I don't feel like it was made for social merit. I feel like it was made just to kind of make some big points and then just kind of offer up an exploitation movie feel, which is I think actually what it succeeds at. I think at the end of the day, this is most effective as a violent sleaze type of exploitation movie that happens to include some very valid, very poignant points about society. So definitely this is not a social justice type of movie. It's not a rape revenge movie, really, although it does have some threads of that. It's a very sad, it's a very dark, and it's a very graphic movie. The scene where Manu and her friend get raped, and Manu's kind of telling her, her friend is hysterical, and she's like, why doesn't this bother you that we just got raped? And Manu is like, well, it's kind of like if you leave your car in a dangerous neighborhood and somebody takes the stuff out of it, that's your fault because you knew you were in a dangerous neighborhood, so why did you leave anything valuable in your car? And she's like, that's how I feel about getting raped. I don't leave anything valuable in myself anymore. And that's pretty that's pretty dark. And the movie is just pretty much like that throughout. It does have some really dark humor as well, but it's also most of the time pretty serious and tense. Baise Moi is not going to be in a movie that's going to appeal to most people. If you can find it, Arrow Video has a DVD release. It's uncut. Obviously, this is a movie that you want to see uncut because the whole point of it is kind of the shocking, in-your-face, graphic depiction of violence and sex. So if you watch a cut version, you're kind of losing a lot of the intent of the filmmakers. I certainly don't think this is an art movie. I don't think it's a social justice movie. Like I said, I just feel like it's a exploitation movie that makes some good points, but I do recommend it if you're into darker offbeat movies. It's certainly, I think, at least worth seeing one time just because it is such a just insane spectacle. In addition to the Arrow DVD, you can also find some other versions all around the world. I don't know that there's an official US release even now, all these years later, but I do recommend Baise Moi, and I think the Arrow DVD is probably the kind of most easily accessed version of the movie. If you want to read more about the movie, I did a full write-up of it at my website, markfusion.com. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, all that kind of fun stuff. This movie, it's such a dark movie. It's bringing me down. So anyway, that's my review of Baise Moi. Again, this movie has graphic sex, actual, real, non-simulated sex. It's got some crazy violence in it. It's a depressing, dark, sad movie, but I still think it's definitely worth watching. It's one of the wildest movies I've ever seen. thanks for watching this video, guys. I do really appreciate it. I know this is kind of an offbeat movie to put in here, but I do think it's worth checking out, and I think it was worth trying to draw some attention to. So thank you very much for watching this video. I greatly appreciate it. Hopefully I'll see you soon.